Being an executor of a loved one's estate can be challenging, especially if it includes philanthropic funds. But that is exactly what one of my next guests is doing. She is continuing her late uncle's pioneering work in healthcare and using a donor-advised fund to do it. Dr. Rae Yeung is a senior scientist and staff rheumatologist at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto, and also with us is Jo-Anne Ryan, executive director of TD's Private Giving Foundation, which manages more than $1 billion in assets, and the foundation is helping Dr. Yeung facilitate her uncle's charitable giving. Thank you for both coming in. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I want to start, if I could, and maybe just get the story. And it's a pretty incredible story, Rae. As an executor, my understanding is that you directed a multi-million-dollar gift to support the Dr. Hock Ming Chu research program in inflammation and autoimmunity at sick kids. So tell me about all of this. Tell me about your uncle, his personality, and why you did this.
Yeah, it's a mouthful for a program name, but really exemplifies what he was trying to do. So my uncle's a pretty special guy. He was tough on the outside, but really soft on the inside. A family man and a very dedicated physician. So he was a cancer doctor and looked after his patients throughout their lives. And one of the things that he was very keen on was research, making sure that research and advances in health research actually impacted his patients. So when he was young, he actually did research as a student, and then became an oncologist. And it was interesting because we come from a family of physicians, so what do we talk about at the dinner table? But we talk about medicine. And when I went to medicine and I went into research, I chose a slightly different route, and I studied autoimmune disease in children. And one of the discussions that we had around the dinner table was that autoimmune disease was really like cancer. So instead of the cells just growing wildly and turning into cancer, they actually grow wildly, but they attack our own body. And that's autoimmune disease. But because autoimmune disease is not as sexy as cancer, it doesn't attract as much funding, and it really resonated with my uncle. And on a personal level, so many members of our family have autoimmune disease. He always felt it was important to be able to give back, to understand, to help his family, and to help society. Coming from humble beginnings, he had accumulated and made some wealth, and he wanted to give back and be able to really benefit society. So in this way, he felt it was really something that was meaningful for him on a personal level, meaningful for him because he did research in this area, and meaningful scientifically. So he felt what better choice than to help kids, because kids are really our future as we look forward.
And meaningful as well, I guess, that he's asking you to help direct this gift as well, too. So certainly a reflection of your relationship with him as well, too. You describe that, or have described to, I know my producer, you're speaking to earlier, about using the Private Giving Foundation almost as a type of speed dating process. So maybe tell me what you mean by that.
Sure, I swipe left, I swipe right, right? It is, because my uncle had been involved in quite a number of charitable avenues before. He had really a clear plan of what he wanted to do before he passed, and we had communicated it multiple times. And it was really, there was quite a lot of important to feel comfortable about what the next steps were. One of the important things also was to be able to be, as a donor or somebody who was interested in directing where the funds went. There's still a lot of red tape and a lot of complications and learning curve, but the people at Private Giving were fantastic. They take care of the red tape, made us felt at ease in terms of what's happening, and are able to grow, show that adding value to the money that you donate, being able to steward it well and grow it so you can make more of an impact to your donation was a very important component, and it was just a very comfortable relationship.
It's great because it really lets you focus on the work that you want to do and less on the administration, which brings me to you, Jo-Anne, and maybe to tell me why this was such a good fit overall.
So the Private Giving Foundation, a donor-advised fund, is a simple alternative to establishing your own private foundation. So if you establish your own private foundation, you're going to sit on the board, you're going to assume all the fiduciary responsibility to be in compliance with CRA, the Income Tax Act, go to board meetings, do lots of filings. This really simplifies it because we have the public foundation already established. It has its own board of directors. All of the administration is done through TD, through a services agreement. So, once the money goes in and the charitable tax receipt is issued, you don't have to worry about it. As Rae said, the funds are invested. The board has the fiduciary oversight responsibility to ensure they're managed prudently. The investments grow tax-free, so more money to give back. And as you said, Rae can focus on what these funds are going to do in terms of helping research in children's autoimmune diseases. So it really simplifies everything, makes it easy. And Rae, if you haven't figured out, is very busy. She's a very busy physician. She doesn't have a lot of free time and suddenly has this executor role and the role of stewarding the funds on top of her already very, very busy day job, which is also a weekend job, as we just learned.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it just makes it easy and makes it simple as opposed to setting up your own foundation.
Well, and on top of all this, I mean, being an executor is not a small job either, especially when it involves something of this magnitude.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what Jo-Anne mentioned is just that it gives us the ability to also take the time to be thoughtful about what the next steps for your investment are. It's one of my first journeys into this, and when my uncle asked me to be the executor, I was a bit overwhelmed initially, but I think the people in the private banking and private wealth were very helpful in making this introduction. And Jo-Anne made me feel very comfortable with what the decisions are next so that I could focus on what I'm good at, and they can focus on what they're good at, and be able to kind of divide and conquer.
Yeah, which is really important. And I should mention, just as an aside, I mean, now you're $1 billion in assets, and obviously that means that's scale. That is scale that is available to clients to come in and be able to help with those things at the same time. Can I ask, for someone who's listening, and thank you again for your generosity in sharing the story, because I think people can hear how it actually works. But for Rae's uncle, he made the choice to leave a large sum to charity and under the stewardship to make sure it's going to happen. What should someone consider if they are in a similar situation and want to leave a large sum when they're thinking about managing all this?
So you can name charity specifically in your will, or you can simply say, I'm designating it to a charity at the discretion of my executor, which happened in this case, but obviously there were a lot of conversations between you and your uncle, so you understood what was important to him in terms of deciding how to steward those assets. But I think, there's tax planning to do. There are limits of what you can claim during your lifetime, and you can claim donations up to 75% of your net income, and if you exceed that, you can carry it forward for 5 subsequent years. That limit in the year of death is 100% of your net income, and if you exceed that, you can carry it back 1 year and claim up to 100%. So the most important thing, obviously, when you're doing your estate plan and contemplating leaving money to charity is making sure you have enough to look after yourselves and your family, but you're also doing it as tax efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
And we know tax is not the #1 motivator in terms of why people give, but we have very generous tax incentives in Canada compared to other countries. So you want to be able to structure your will so if there are securities with capital gains, then you can donate those securities and eliminate the capital gains tax. So there is some tax planning around it. And just communicating with your family and with your heirs, so it's not a surprise.
Which this was not.
that it's not all going to family. Certainly, some would go to family, but a very large portion going to a charity. So we don't really like to see wills challenged. So the more you can communicate what you're doing during your lifetime, it's not a shock, and it's actually celebrated. In fact, this was celebrated with your family and at a wonderful event at Sick Kids.
That's great. I think, and also too, there's when you talk about being tax efficient, of course, the more tax efficient you are, the more you can give. I mean, that is one of the most important things as well too. There's also ways that I know that the Private Giving Foundation can help honor someone's memory if in the process of when things happen quite early on, like instead of flowers, other things can be set up.
So the private giving, we have funds within the Private Giving Foundation, and low minimum, $10,000, but we have a number of what we call in memoriam accounts, and somebody passes away suddenly, and they don't really know what charity to choose, but they want to perhaps set up a Private Giving Foundation account to honor the person who has passed away and to continue to support things that were important to them. So sometimes right in the obituary, you can work with CanadaHelps.org, who we know, and they will actually set up a page, a website page in memory of somebody. You can donate right on it, and then they transfer the funds to the Private Giving Foundation so the family can establish a longer-term legacy of giving to honor their loved ones.
Final question for you, Rae. You know, the Dr. Hock-Ming Chu research program is a substantial program. What are your hopes in terms of what this research is going to do, and where do you see it going?
And so I hope my uncle is happy to see it make an impact. And I think the greatest thing that could happen is that if research can transform care. Because it's really, research is care, and care is research is a model that I live by, that he lived by. And if we could learn what we learned in cancer, use that as a template to transfer it to autoimmunity, and then not use autoimmunity then as a template to scale and scope. We're talking about scale and scope in funds, but scale and scope in research knowledge is really important to be able to benefit children, and not just children, but children are, in fact, I really like to think of children as a really clean model of adults, because we haven't abused our body, we haven't done bad things. So what we understand and what we learn in children are incredible lessons that we can actually find the signal outside of the dirty noise in adults, and be able to also help populations that are affected by all diseases using these diseases as models. So hopefully transformational impact, not just at the funding level, but at the health level, and to improve health for all Canadians.
Well, it's exciting. It's exciting to see that work and to see his legacy live on. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.